No, I mean, a lot of people will be, oh, women are so competitive or women are this. You're not hanging out with the right women. All right. The women that you want to be around are the women that are your cheerleaders, and they're the ones that are helping you and growing. I mean, my personal board of directors for my life are these incredible women that have, they lift and they build when we're having great days, bad days. We're all there for each other. And vice versa. I mean, those are the types of relationships, and there are so many of them in our space. It's just, finding them and connecting with them and getting them in your orbit. I mean, that's the name of the game for sure.
Welcome back again to another episode of the Confident Mompreneur podcast, where we talk to real women from around the globe about real life difficulties and triumphs in momhood, business, relationships, health, and more. I'm your host, Kyrie, ready to give you real actionable advice to help you become the best, most confident version of you in all areas of your life. Let's get into it. Well, welcome on today, Samantha. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me. What a pleasure.
Yes, I'm so excited. I got sent over your profile and I was like reading through it and I was like, oh my gosh, her and I have lived like parallel lives to each other. Like there were so many things that you've done and are like involved in that I was like, oh my gosh, I've done that. I've been there. I get her. I also work in the insurance industry. I also started my nonprofit. So I absolutely was so excited to get you on and hear your story and just get to learn more about you and all the wonderful things that you're doing. So for those who haven't gotten to know you, do you want to start us out by introducing yourself and all of the wonderful things that you do?
Yeah, thanks so much. So I'm Samantha Tradelius. I wear lots of hats, as you've mentioned, as many of us gals do. Been a 25-year insurance professional. So I have owned my own agency, been involved in the education of insurance. I currently sit on the education curriculum board for the Department of Insurance in California. So I'm pretty involved with that. My career, it's been fun. It's been exciting. It's been hard. As you know, being a female in this space is not always super warm and welcoming, but we are breaking those ceilings. In 2016, it felt like I didn't have enough going on. So I decided that starting a nonprofit would make sense to kind of complement the work I'd already been doing for about 13 years prior, serving single mothers all throughout California. And now we've actually moved into Arizona, which I'm sure we'll get into. And then I've got 2 kids. I'm a mom of 2 young girls that are teening, and it's a vibe right now. It's a lot. I got a podcast. I host an insurance podcast and also a podcast dedicated to focusing on furthering the narrative and stories of women doing incredible things with my girlfriend, Stacy. And yeah, I mean, I'm really about helping lift and serve people, in our community in any way we possibly can, and really supporting women because I feel like a lot of times, they don't get the support that they need, whether it's single moms or whether it's just women in business in general. I really have dedicated my life to making that more of a positive experience for all of us.
I love
So that's
that
me.
so much.
That's who I am.
I love it. All of the things, all of the things. No, you do so many cool things. And like I said, I was like, oh my gosh, I understand her in a lot of these ways. And you brought up like being a woman in the insurance kind of, game. And that's a whole thing in and of itself. It's a very, of course, anything finance related is a very male dominated field. And I found it can be very difficult, especially if you don't find really good male like allies and people to work with to kind of help you along that path. Luckily for me, I work for a great firm with some really good guys, but I know that's not always the case. So what has it been like for you? Why did you decide to get into insurance, and what has your journey looked like as you've grown in that?
Yeah, so my family owns a licensing school for insurance, which is the education component. So I started, working in the office as like a 14-year-old girl running the front desk, and really enjoyed the education. Kind of found myself in a situation to where I really needed to plug in and fill in. And so realizing I liked it, I, kind of put myself through school teaching insurance at various levels. And then when I graduated, it was about, mom and dad weren't ready to retire. And so I started an agency with my dad. His background was life and health, and I had learned, a little bit on how to sell home and auto. And so that was really how my career started. I was 23 at the time. I didn't know anything about anything, but I knew enough to go ask questions if I didn't know the answers. It's interesting. Somebody had asked me the other day, I'd never ever had a boss. I mean, my parents were my boss, or then I've been my own boss, which, my first job ever was working at Noah's Bagels. It's the only time I've ever been told when to come to work and when to leave. Other than that, I've always, been an entrepreneur in different ways. And so, having, the allies and the things I had my family and I had my will and my want to be successful, but a lot of it was really a lot of trial and error and learning and falling and really making a lot of mistakes and, picking up and going, okay, that didn't work. Let's try this. But being a woman, I mean, there wasn't a lot of resources, 20 years ago for us. Now you'll see there's a lot more groups about women in insurance. There's a lot more of a Hartford, their big CEO is a female. You've got a lot of leadership, still not where we want it to be, but it wasn't that way 20 years ago. The only women you saw were women working in the office or marketing reps. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, that was it.
Yeah.
So, it's the industry shifted and getting better, but it's still a grind. And it's, I still see a lot of barriers for women, unfortunately, in any of the financial spaces, whether it's banking, some, financial planning and even insurance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I definitely love to see just how much we've grown in the last few years since I've been in. So I'm sure that's, even more so for you being in it for 20 years. But that's kind of fun that you grew up, with entrepreneurs and became an entrepreneur. And I'm sure like you said, a lot of trial and error and things, but what are some of the best parts of being an entrepreneur and being a woman in insurance?
I think the best part about entrepreneurship is this, when you find yourself, meeting your goals and, being successful, quote unquote, whatever that means. For me, it was, hey, I needed to sell X amount of policies, or, hey, I needed to renew these or go get new business. I think success comes in different ways for many of us. And so that entrepreneurial, meeting those goals and, everyone's always like, well, you could be your own boss and do all these things, which is fantastic. And it has a lot of flexibility in my life with having children and doing different things and having a nonprofit, because if I had a true bold 9 to 5 and, I don't know that I could do these other things in the way, but I work, 12-hour days differently than most. So, I might not traditionally sit at my desk from 9 to 5, but it'll be midnight and I'm still cranking out emails. Or, I was having my babies and I'm sitting on the delivery table on my phone sending an email, and that's just, who I am by nature. So I think it's got a lot of perks and it's also got a lot of stresses too, and they kind of balance each other out. It's an ebb and flow. As far as being in insurance, insurance is obviously not the most sexiest career. Nobody wakes up and is like, I want to be an insurance person. We find ourselves there. And I think that once you get there and once you can understand it, it's an incredible product. Whatever space that you choose to be in, whether it's life, P&C, there's so many different parts of it. I think the coolest part about what I've found for myself is being able to be a partner for my clients and be a part of their journey as a business owner. A lot of my clients just kind of organically have fallen into female-owned businesses because we as women do business differently. And I could tell you, like, a woman's excited to see a woman that's in insurance much more than she is to see a dude in insurance, right? Because it's different. Yep. And we do business differently. That's just how our compasses are. So it's cool to be a part of that journey for my, women that I do business with. And I am as excited about their growth as they are. So I think that's the coolest part.
Yes, I love that so much. I agree 100%. Like, as women, we typically like to work with other women. Men just don't get us or the way that we think or the way that we do business. And it's so good to be able to support each other in the growth that we're going through. And I found that if you surround yourself with the right kind of women, that's always going to be the mindset.
Oh yeah. No, a lot of people will be, oh, women are so competitive or women are this. You're not hanging out with the right women, right? the women that you want to be around are the women that are your cheerleaders, and they're the ones that are helping you and growing. I mean, my personal board of directors for my life are these incredible women that have, they lift and they build when we're having great days, bad days. We're all there for each other. And vice versa. I mean, those are the types of relationships, and there are so many of them in our space. It's just, finding them and connecting with them and getting them in your orbit. I mean, that's the name of the game for sure.
Yeah, it really is. It's so important, the people that you surround yourself with. And I love how like women centric you are in everything that you do. And it speaks volumes about like the type of person you are and that you're that person that people want in their circle.
Well, thank you. It's interesting. I was having a coffee with a girlfriend a couple years back, and I always used to very much compartmentalize who people saw of me. So if I was on my LinkedIn, I was Insurance Sam. If I was on my Facebook, I was Sparkle Sam. If I was, over here, I was Mom Sam. And my girlfriend goes, "Why do you do that?" And I go, "Well, because like, I don't know that my insurance clients really want to hear about my Sparkle efforts, and my mom people want to hear about insurance." And she goes, "That's what makes you who you are. All those different parts of you, your undertow is the same. It's the same storyline. It's not like it's, over here and over here. I mean, it's the same get all around. So share it." So I started to, and it made actually life a lot easier because then it was just one post instead of multiple. I could just cross pollinate. But I think that was a real defining moment for me, because I really do think it helped to build my storyline, to really identify all the things that you even just mentioned, because they are all about doing the same thing in different ways.
Yes, absolutely. I love that so much. I was just talking to a friend the other day about, like we just said, like men and women do business and things differently. Men are very much more compartmentalized in the way that they do things. Their business is usually very separate than their home life, and all over the place. But for women, everything just floods together. It all works together. Like we're very value-based beings. And so whatever our core values are typically spread through the rest of our lives. And it all just works together. And that's why I love, doing this podcast and things like this, is because we get to see every part of people. We don't just get to see this little tiny compartmentalized view of people, and we get to see, how it can all work together, because it is hard when you're doing a million things and you feel like you have to be separate people for each of them, when really like the best us comes out when we like honor each of those pieces of ourselves.
100%.
Yeah. So, you have been in insurance for a long time, and you obviously like built this clientele that was very woman centric. How did you then decide to like, oh, I'm just gonna, start my own nonprofit? And like, what did that look like for you?
That was a little bit of a swing, because I've done both for a very long time, simultaneously. So I started my insurance agency, my first insurance agency with my father when I was 23. So about the same time as when I decided, I wanted to do something for my world, not really knowing what that meant, and not really having a lot of money, but having time and, having the will to do it. After researching charities, I was really finding that I wasn't finding what I wanted, because a lot of orgs weren't super transparent about what they were either doing or what they were doing with the money, which was even weirder. So if you were to donate $100, say that was all I had, I wanted to make sure the $100 went to what it was going for, not like some dude's lunch or big hefty salary, right?
Right.
So not finding what I wanted, I was like, well, I guess I'll just do it myself. So I hooked up with the post office. I was living in Los Angeles at the time, and you could go get letters from the Santa program. So kids would write to Santa, and you could go and pick out these letters. So the first year I did like 2 or 3, then it was 5 or 6. And, year after year after year, it kept growing and growing. I'd go back to my clients, and I was still, building my insurance industry agency, my clients, my friends, my family, and people would help me. So I'd be like, hey, I need, 42 boxes of crayons and 3 bikes and 4 shirts. And people would either give money or they would give goods. And we would wrap it, we would sort it, we would go deliver it. And this, kept going and going and going until finally it kind of dawned on me, hey, we could probably do a little bit more if we were legit. I mean, I think the year before I formed the nonprofit, I had served 17 families out of my house here and raised like $35,000, just like me being, people just give me money, and because they knew I would go do the work. And I'd had, 100 women in here wrapping gifts. So I, said, okay, let's do this, having no idea what it meant to have it form a nonprofit, what it meant to be an executive director, what it meant to like fund. I just knew like I wanted to help people, and I wanted to just really make sure that every dollar in was a dollar out. That was my only thing. So fast forward 8 years later. So now it's 21 years of doing the work, 8 as a legit nonprofit. We've served over 10,000 lives, brought in, over $2 million, given it all back out to the community. I've got like 750 volunteers, 4 different chapters. We're still 100% in, 100% out. We do Christmas, we do microloans, we do backpacks, and we do enrichment scholarships, which are like funding for after school programs and camps, stuff like that, all geared towards single moms. And the reason single moms, because my grandma was a single mom in the 50s. And I knew like that was an underserved category. So when I was deciding to figure out who and where I wanted to direct my energies, it just totally made sense because of the alignment. And I knew that that was a group of women that didn't get a whole lot. And, here we are years later, still making it happen. We just wrapped Mother's Day boxes up. So we're setting those up next week. We'll do Christmas this year, and we just funded our second microloan to an actual insurance agency. It's a single mom who's got an insurance agency that needed some capital to grow and hire some people. So it's like right up my alley.
That is so awesome. I love that so much. Yeah, I think it's so interesting. Everybody that I know that's like started a nonprofit has like some sort of a personal connection to the thing that they're trying to do. And, for me, I started a nonprofit that was helping moms go to college, because I was a mom with a 2-year-old going back to college after I had flunked out, and um, figuring out what I wanted to do with my life and, trying to figure out how to do it all with this little baby next to me. And it was hard, and there was not a ton of resources out there. And it's like, well, I guess I'm just going to do it myself. And I love that mindset. I think if more of us had that mindset, like what a better world it would be if we just stepped up to the plate when we see these issues and create that space for them, because people do want to help, and
Oh
sometimes they
yeah.
just don't know how to help. So like providing that space for them is actually, serving them too, the volunteers, the people that are donating money, like all of those things. You're not just serving the clients, but you're serving those people too.
Yeah. And I think, a lot of people want to help. They don't know how to help. And so, like you said, creating an environment for that, and some people can donate, they like to just write a check and that's what they do. Others give their time, they give their energies, they give their, we have a lot of mentoring that we do with these single moms, which is great. So we kind of meet people where they are and allow them the opportunity. We also bring in a lot of young kids to help, because a lot of our work is assembly line, like we just boxes. So the best part is my girls are now 13 and 11, and they've been, all they've ever known is like, okay, mom's got our bunch of boxes. What are we doing now?
We're stuck
And so
today.
here we go. So it was really funny. Yesterday, I had 5 high school kids and then my 2 girls. And I said, here's what we got to do. We need to make 100 bags. There's all these different items. They all need to go in these bags. And there may be some that don't have what they need. So you need to separate those over here. And these are going to go here and these are going to go here. And within an hour, like I just walked out of the room and I was like, let's just see if they can do it. And they had it figured out. So it's, it's really great to see the young kids get involved and be a part of something that's bigger than themselves, because it really helps them to kind of further the narrative of being of service to your community in whatever way that looks for you as an adult.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's such an important quality that we as as the parents get to show our kids, growing up. And even with being like a busy mom, you make time for that and look at how it's paying off in your girls as they're growing up.
Oh, my kids are incredible in a way to where when they speak about what we do, they know. My oldest sits on our board we bring in junior board members, and we have right
Love.
now we have my daughter, and then we have a high schooler. We have 2 high schoolers actually. And we have them attend meetings and like be involved and have a seat at the table of a big girl conversation that they would never have access to otherwise.
Mhm.
And it was interesting. Our last board meeting was last week, and we had a something come at us that was just not our norm. And we had to kind of discuss it as a group. And I've got some incredibly big personalities on my board by design, right? I want people that don't think the way I do. I want people that think, have different convictions about things. And we had gotten into a discussion that was very heated. And there was a couple people that had some really big opinions about things, and others were like, we don't really care. Like, okay, if you feel this firmly about it, like, I got it. So after we were all done kind of throwing swords and having our, words, we came to a vote and we moved on. And our little board member, she raises her hand. She goes, can I just say thank you? Like, I've never heard people interact like that and then come to a conclusion and move on. And it was like, oh, honey, this is what you do. Like, this is work. Like, this is normal. And we all sat there, all of us, there's 9 of us on the call. And we were like, dang, like, what a great opportunity for her, and for her to recognize it, like, this was huge. And so, allowing those types of opportunities for kids, I think, is something we're really proud of as an organization. And that's, that's knowledge that's priceless for them.
Oh yeah. I just the leadership skills that you're providing to them and seeing like healthy conflict and resolution, I think are such important skills. And I think back, when I was younger, my mom was working for nonprofits. She's always worked for nonprofits for most of my life. And I remember, like I would put together presentations for her like nonprofit and go and do it in front of my class. And like now I use those skills every day as a speaker at events. I actually just spoke as a survivor speaker for a nonprofit last Thursday, and we ended up getting $55,000. And I'm like, yeah, I just am like, I can see exactly like how those skills came to be, through trial and error, starting from when I was a very young child. And, my parents thought all of those skills were super important to me and my brothers as we were growing up. So they bought a family event business for us as kids, and we were all partial owners of it when I was in high school, and we worked it. Like I would be 16 with my truck and trailer driving across the state by myself, and I would show up and have my invoice and, be in charge of all of these other teenagers that were setting up the events and stuff. And those leadership skills and like negotiation skills and all of those skills have paid off so much later in my life. And I just have to thank my parents for giving me those opportunities. I'm sure your kids and the kids that are working with you through the nonprofit are going to come back and be like, oh my gosh, I am so glad that I had those opportunities when I was a young kid. Kids are so much smarter than we give them credit for.
And they're watching. They're watching us. I mean, and it's interesting when you talk about like motherhood and doing all the things and being, I this last weekend I had one of those moments where I just felt like I was kind of letting one kid down because I couldn't do this, and I could, there's only one of me and I had to be in 4 different places at once, and it was, you have those moments, but at the same time, I'm showing her that I got to make a decision, and I'm trying to make the best decision I can based upon what's in front of me. And my littlest goes, Mom, it's cool. Like, I get it. Last weekend, you were here, and here for me. So I get it that this weekend, you got to be here, and here for my sister. And I was like, I guess you do pay attention, little monster, because you make me feel terrible. But I think in a lot of ways they watch us not only in our efforts, with sparkle stuff, but just in the way that we navigate and we move, and we're not even registering that they're paying attention to us, but they're watching us.
Oh yeah, they absolutely are. Well, and that made me think of something else too. Our kids are not only watching us, but like when you're running a business, your clients are constantly watching you too. So even when you said like, that you had kind of separated some of those things, I think bringing in your nonprofit has probably made your clients at your insurance like better clients because they're happier to work with you because they see the work that you do in the community. Like all of it works together.
No, I think it definitely all works together. And I think that it is a situation to where I think it furthers your story and makes you feel like you're really making an impact. It's so much more than just like getting up and breathing and like selling insurance, right? It's about having a little bit more of a directive to make this world a better place. And I would rather do business with somebody that's making making the life have a little bit more purpose, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and like we were talking about earlier, it all boils down to like, what are your values? Who are you as a person? And how can you integrate that into every facet of life? Like you said, you're helping people through your insurance. Like, I love being in insurance for that very reason. Like, I've seen the impact that it can have, when somebody loses a spouse and
Mhm.
they're now becoming a single mom or a single dad or whatever, and just the impact that it can have on itself. And then you're turning around and like doing the same thing in your nonprofit, and it's like you can see the values that you hold and how they link into every area of your life.
Yeah, and I think it really shows a stand-up character of somebody that's, got a good foundation. And it's interesting, a lot of my clients, I mean, I've been doing this for now like 8 years, and I just recently I won a Jefferson Award, and I'm doing things that are beyond my wildest dreams with the efforts. And like I've never really thought of myself as like a leader in that way, but now I'm like, hey, did you check this out? Or they'll be like, hey, we saw you on the news last night. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. And so, I'm having some of them like they show up at my events now and they're like, oh, she does our insurance. And I think it just, who doesn't want to be around people that are doing good things? I mean, honestly, I think there's so much negative in our world. Like to be around people that are doing good for other people. I mean, that's a feel good. I want to be around people that are doing good stuff. Personally, you
Absolutely.
do.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, that's the true definition of success, is not only helping myself, but helping everybody else around me on the way up. Like if we can raise each other, just imagine like what we can do.
I think it's the work, going back to that purpose, and like every day when I go to bed, it's like, did I have purpose? Did I do something that could help someone else in that way? And I think that when it's all said and done, I've been asked plenty of times, like, what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want this? And I want my legacy to be that I, got up every day and lived life with purpose and made it as big of a difference as I could, whether it was selling insurance and helping somebody in that way, or providing Christmas to a family that would have never been able to have Christmas, or help fund the business dreams of moms, or help mentor like a young woman who's getting into insurance and she has no idea. Those things I think really do bring me joy.
Yeah, I love that so much. What tips would you give to a woman that's like, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I want to make the world better somehow? Like, how do I go about figuring that out? And what are some of the key things that I should know, like, throughout that journey?
I mean, I think the first thing is find what you're into first and foremost, right? So, if you're into the ocean, like dive in and find some orgs that work with the ocean, or pick up trash, or if you're into helping kids or education or animals, I mean, whatever, there's so many wonderful organizations that do amazing things. I mean, starting a nonprofit and being in the role that you and I are like, that's a big seat, and that's not a seat that a lot of people want. It's a full-time gig in its own right.
Yeah.
So, I think there's a lot of ways that you could start just baby step, even, just like an hour a month, or, start slow, and find things that you're into that you can either donate to or volunteer to, or, just provide insight with, because I think you'd be into it from a personal perspective, but then also, you'd find yourself being probably more prone to really get involved with it, because it's something you're genuinely excited about.
Yeah, definitely. There, like you said, there are so many different like organizations out there that are always looking for volunteers or people to come in and do things with them. You just have to find the ones that you're interested in and put that time in, and it's so fun, like, once you get involved in those things, like, you get, like, that little spark and light from, like, feeling good about doing something for others, but you also meet other people that are interested in the same things that you are, and then you just build your social network too.
I had a great conversation with somebody that was, kind of in her 30s, and she was like, hey, I just moved to a new city and I'm trying to like figure out, it's hard to make friends when you get a little older, and nor do you really like, it's just different. It's not like it is when you're younger. And I said the same thing, like find a nonprofit or something that you're interested in. And then that can help you meet new people and find a new friend that you might not even know that you needed.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said as part of your nonprofits program, you guys do grants and microloans and those types of things. What does that all look like? What does it entail? And like, how do you really help those young kind of startup businesses with these single moms?
So the enrichment scholarships, or the grants, if you will, those started pretty much, like I would say 6-7 months after we started getting going. It was about, how can we help? You have a single mom and she's like trying to figure out how to make rent happen. And now her son or daughter wants to play baseball and it's $750. And she's like, food, shelter, or sports. Those are decisions like a mom should never have to make. So we were able to like really easily have impact there. So we started funding, programs, dance, art, tutoring. We've even done things like sending kids to like DC for their 8th grade trip. We've done a lot of really cool things in that way. And that is a program that we run all year round. We do it one time. So that's one of the things about us, is we're not here to like consistently fund the well, if you speak. It's a one-time gig. We're more designed to take a woman who's fallen on a moment. She needs a trampoline jump and then off she goes, right? We're not here to like fulfill a lifestyle because we don't have budget for it. And we want to be able to serve as many women as we can. So like on an average year, we send usually about 75 kids through different programs. And it's been a really fun thing to do. We started also doing backpacks. So in the fall, like last year, we did 5,000 backpacks, which was like bananas. This year, we're actually taking pause on it just because we wanted to allocate our resources to our loan program, which I'll tell you about in a second. But that's been really fun too. We work with local law enforcement and school districts to distribute the bags. It's a huge, huge undertaking, but it's super fun. And then the microloan part was something that kind of came to me probably like 2008, 18, 19. I really wanted to take like my business mind, and I've got all these incredible clients and powerful women that I know wanted to do a little bit more with their time. And then we had the sparkle component. So we had the nonprofit. I was like, how can I fuse the two together? And I was actually having one of those like foot massages, and I sat straight up and I go, oh my God, it's loans. That's it. We could do this. So the program, it's kind of a funny story. So I had this idea. It was a little crazy. I was like, originally I wanted to do grants and just offer money to people. And I pitched this idea to about 100 people. And half of them were like, yeah, this is great. The other half were like, girl, you're nuts. Like, stay in your lane. What are you doing? Like, this is bananas. And so I stuck with the people that were like, this is cool. We started to build out the program. We did research on lending laws and, credit, like all the different things you could possibly think about. And what we determined was we wanted to do loans because there was skin in the game. We wanted to do loans that were, not a large amount of money. And $5,000 to $15,000 is still a lot of money, but it's not $100,000. It's
Right.
not a huge bite that somebody can't pay back. We wanted to have it be interest free. So we wanted it to be free money, but we wanted you to pay it back so there was skin in the game. Because if I just give you a check, like what is the
Incentive is there?
Yeah, what's the focus to give it back? And then we wanted to have mentorship. So where you were weak, we wanted to plug in these personalities that could help you. So this kind of rolled out. We got it all built. We were ready to rock. And then it was 2020 and it was January. We were going to launch this in March. And then guess what happened? The world ended.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this was devastating. I had like an event planned. We were like going to be downtown San Francisco at the new Salesforce Tower. It was like literally the worst. So I was turning 40 and I was so upset. And I go, you know what? I'm going to do this. So I started a Facebook fundraiser and I said, listen, here's what I want to do. I need $40 for my 40th birthday to start this fund. And I raised $15,000 and that's how it was born. And we got the money. We, got the program, and then we had a lot of applications come in, and we really focused on somebody we knew we could make a difference for, because it wasn't just a money handout. It was like, we wanted somebody that could really benefit from our mentorship too. So the first one we did was $10,000. It was a single mom who had a business that was in the wellness space. She was incredible. She was making money. She was doing really great, but she was kind of like back end was a nightmare, like entity, insurance, payment structure, software, like all those little things, business ownership wise, messy. We totally straightened her out. And within about 6 months of working with us, she was able to open her second location, hire 5 more women. So she's providing, services to her community in that way. And she paid us back in full in 18 months. And so then we kind of sat and we were like, okay, this works. Like we needed to see if it worked. And this last year, beginning in January, we started, looking for our next one and we found her. We had about 5 applicants come in. This particular person was really a good fit for us. And so now we're actively working with her. And it's so fun to help someone make those moves that you made the hard way, So how do I set up an entity? How do I, set up my bank accounts? What's the software I use? What's the website? Like all those things that we've all learned, we're able to just like provide her with, and there's no strings attached other than like, we just want her to be successful. So that's it. Those are the 2 things. And then the other big one we do is the holiday gift drive. So that's like, we find moms, we have the community, let us know who needs us. We have about, like last year, we had over 250 applications. We chose 80 that we could help. This year we'll do 100 and we'll probably have way more applications come through. And we, provide Christmas in a way that's like very customized, very unique. And the beautiful thing about what we do is we not only buy all the gifts, we wrap the gifts as a community and then we go deliver them. So you can really see the whole like soup to nuts moment for somebody that, wants to donate $1 and then go deliver that $1. That's a really cool feeling for a lot of people. And it's really emotional too, for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love everything that you're doing. I am a single mom. And so I was just thinking, like when I first got divorced and like, just the financial burden that comes with that, moving into your own place, having to figure out, all of your payments getting switched over to you. And then, there's just a whole lot that goes into it. But I couldn't pay for my son to get into swimming lessons. And so, yeah, I'm like, oh my gosh, yep, that would have been great. And then as far as the microloan program, I think that is so, so smart because, when I was first starting my nonprofit, actually, I went through a $50,000 entrepreneurship competition, and it was like, a 6-month long thing. And there was so much mentorship that was part of it. And then at the end, you got like this money. And I think, like you said, having that skin in the game, having to put that time in, having to like, bring in your own resources to do that, plus getting the mentorship was such a massive part. Such a massive part. I'm like, honestly, that was probably more beneficial to me than the money was at that point.
Yep.
And then, getting the money on top is just kind of an added bonus. But I think back to that and how beneficial that was and how it completely transitioned, because I had all of this stuff that I never would have had before. And it really gave me that massive like jump start to everything that came afterwards.
Yeah. I think the mentoring part of being on the, I'm not old by any means, but I've been around a few years in the industry. And so, all those things I had to learn, honestly, the hardest way possible would have not made me the person I am had I not had to go through and learn the hard way. But if I can help somebody not have to make those same mistakes, that is a great honor and privilege, because I think that there's plenty of mistakes you get to still make.
Yep.
World is going to give you enough nonsense. Like, let's like have these slam dunk moments where we can win and not have to struggle with, this software, or, hiring this person or not hiring this person. Those types of things. A lot of it just doesn't always come to all of us organically. Like business is hard. Running a business is hard.
It's so hard. And I think, like you said, just like being able to provide that little bit of mentorship to make it a little bit easier on the generation coming after us. I mean, we already see, women have really only been in business for, about the last 50 years. And just look at how far we've come so far. But there's so much more that we can do. And we get to, you know, allow those women to come up and be a little bit better behind us with things like the mentorship that we provide to them. And I think
I mean,
that's
it's crazy if you think about like women weren't even allowed to have a checking account without a man's signature, like not even that
yeah,
long. Like in our parents, like in my parents are my mom's like almost 65, 66 in her lifetime, right?
yeah.
Like that's insane to me. Women of color weren't allowed to vote,
Mm-hmm.
in our lifetime. In our like this is insane to me.
Yeah.
And it's, I think as women, I say it often. Somebody said to me very early on in my nonprofit career, it was where you have the ability, you have the responsibility. And I really lead with that, with, work and nonprofit work, because, where we can be of service and help people be better, faster, stronger, like game on. And especially when it comes to women, like you got to help your sisters out. We need you and they need us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Helping one helps us all.
When one of us wins, we all win.
Yes. I love that. And I think you show in everything that you do, and you've talked about it a lot through this conversation, but like we have a responsibility to do better for ourselves, for our kids, for the world around us at large. And like, whether you can provide time, you can provide services, you can provide money, whatever it is, like, we have that responsibility to try to make the world a little bit better of a place. Just a little bit.
Just a smidge,
Yeah.
because there's so much yuck. There's so much yuck all the time. And that's all we hear about. That's all we see on the news. It's all anybody ever wants to talk about. And so providing positivity and things that are feel good, I think it really does. It helps the next generation. And it also is like goes into like just your own mental health and like making you feel better. I was recently talking about during COVID, when everyone was just at home and we were all at home. I mean, I was like teaching my kids math at a level that I was like, I am an educated, college educated, and I don't understand
Yeah,
Common
right.
Core fourth grade math. I'm out. Okay. Like this is not for me.
Yeah.
And it was tough and it was hard and it was horrible. And so what we did, what I did is I just was like, I got to do what I do. And that's just help other people because it made me feel better. And so that's what I did. And we did gratitude boxes. We did 1,000 of them for law enforcement, and we did a whole bunch more for first responders, nurses, doctors, teachers, small business owners. And I mean, it kept all of my team so busy because it was so great, because it was like we all were feeling everyone was just all messed up. And so,
Yeah.
doing good, I think, helps the mental health and helps you feel better.
Absolutely. That event that I just did last week, that we raised the 55,000. So I'm a survivor of sexual assault. And so I spoke as the survivor for this group, and they help women that are, survivors of sexual assault, domestic violence, stalking, all of those things. And I had a lot of people come up to me afterwards and they're like, "Oh my gosh, you are so brave for sharing your story, for doing this." And I told them, I was like, honestly, this is healing for me to be able to come out here to share my story, to make some sort of a change, and to provide, not just education, but also resources to a nonprofit that is supporting the people that supported me, like while I was going through all of this. I'm like, it is so healing to be in that space and to provide in that sort of a way. It's so,
Well,
so mental,
thank you for doing
mentally
that
healing.
that work. I mean, because that's a lot of like your own emotional trauma and things like coming out. I mean, that's some like, I don't know if we could swear. Can we swear?
Yeah, swear.
It's like some big girl shit, right? And that a
Yeah.
lot of people aren't, nobody ever wants to hear about, again, like going back, like the bad stuff, right? Um, and I think if you can impact just one person, if one person can hear you and go like, okay, like I'm going through this and she's gone through it, and look at, she's on the other side and she's doing all this great work. Like that can be incredibly moving and motivating for that. Just even if it's that one person, I mean, then you can go to bed at night knowing like you did something good. And that's a great
Absolutely.
feeling.
Absolutely. Well, and that's what I say all the time is like I love talking about like the weird taboo things that people don't talk about because I'm like it is so freaking hard, especially when you feel like you're going through things alone, whether that's in business or, you know, those big traumatic moments or whatever. When you feel alone in those things, it makes it so much harder if you have just one person that's like, girl, I understand. I've been there. I've done that. And look, you can get through it. It like just shows you that little bit of light at the end of the tunnel and it helps you get through.
Sometimes that's all you need. And, you know, it's always interesting. Like, you know, you see people on, you know, social media and they have these like perfect lives and everything's just peaches and strawberries. And oh my God. Like, I've always been the woman that's like, I'm going to be unapologetically me and show you the good, the bad, the indifferent. And like, I think it's being human and being relatable and going through struggles and going through different things. I mean, I've had it all happen. You know, I've had horrible employees. I've had people steal from me. I've had people write the worst shit on me about me online. Like you wouldn't even believe it. And you're just like, whoa, you know, but being able to sit down and talk about it and go like, hey, like these things happen and you're gonna be okay. You know, I think it makes you relatable and I think people can connect with you. And I think in a lot of ways, like social media can be really great for that because you can reach a lot of people and have impact. And especially with our work in the nonprofit space, I mean, people like to hear about people that are helping other people, but also that are relatable in their efforts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Relatability is actually really huge for me, especially like you said on social media, when you just don't see enough of the real. It makes you feel bad about yourself and like you're not enough. And honestly, we're all struggling. We're all just trying our best out here. We're all going through crap. And sometimes you just like, especially when you go through crap, you need to ask yourself like, is this true? Like the person writing a bad review, like, is this actually true or is it just something that they're projecting onto me? Because that's usually the case.
You know, the older I get, the more I think at least you're talking about me, right? Just go online and make a donation. Say whatever you want. Just make sure you go ahead and go to Sparkle and make a donation to help somebody else. Like I mean, the other part of it too is when you do live out loud, like you then you know, you put yourself in a situation to where like you're easy to throw rocks at. And you know, I wouldn't say like it gets easier when someone says something nasty, but you know, you're like, okay, I had somebody one time call me a blonde bimbo. And I was like, and then in the same sentence had mentioned sparkle. And I was like, huh, like, that's cool. So do blonde bimbos also like serve the community like in a high, like, okay, like, great. Obviously, you know, I don't know that we use the word bimbo anymore. I'm not even sure what that means, but I mean, like, people suck and it's fine. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, I'm just gonna do me and like do what I do. And if it's for you, great. And if it's not, like, that's also fine. I don't care anymore.
And that's the power of just like living in your own truth and your own like vision is like at some point you're just like the people who love me for me are going to come and be a part of my life and the people who don't are going to self, you know, get rid of themselves and that's okay too.
Fine. It's totally fine. And there's different, you know, like seasons I say often of who we are as women. You know, we go through this like evolution of like the woman that we're supposed to become. So I'm in my 40s now and I'm a completely different gal than I was when I was 30 and absolutely different than I was in my 20s. I'm terrified of who she's going to be when she's in her 50s, but we got a couple years left. But yeah, I think you just have to be cool with who you are and be true to yourself. And you know, everything else is just kind of, you know, it's always there, but who cares?
And just find the flow and just go with the flow because I feel like especially as women, we love to like hold on to like our, especially like our titles or those types of things. We get really attached to them, and it can be really hard to let go of control in those moments. And I think just recognizing who you are at your core and knowing yourself well enough to be like, is this serving me anymore, or is it time to let go of it?
And also know your worth. I always say know your worth, and baby, add the tax. Add it. Because that's a common problem with women, and especially like in our industry too, because we're up against a lot of, men, and we're as qualified, but we're still getting the lower positions because we're not asking, because we're not validating our own worth. So, I used to always struggle with like charging broker fees. Like I used to always struggle with it because I sell commercial insurance, and I was like, you know what, why? Like my husband does it and doesn't even think twice about it. This is just what his fee is. And I'm like, okay, like I have to get better at this. And now I'm like, I did all this work and now I know like this is what I'm worth. So if you want to do business with me, this is what I charge. And it's a conversation that I've been asked one time about charging a fee, one time since I started doing it, I've been doing it for probably 10 years now. Once had someone ask me, and I told him it's for me.
Yeah.
Conversation's over.
Love that. I spoke at an International Women's Day event, and one of the other speakers brought up that very thing about how the wage gap for women typically comes from us just not asking our own worth, because men do a ton more negotiating when it comes to their salaries. They're willing to they'll say that they have skills that they don't actually have, versus women where we have those skills and we're like, well, I don't know if I'm good enough to like put that on there, or like we won't even apply for jobs because we don't have 100% of the skills that they like ask for. Or, like there are just so many ways that we invalidate ourselves as women, and it plays into that, wage gap. And I think, like you said, when you just decide like, hey, he does it, so that means I can do it, we start to bring in the clients that are willing to pay for us, and it weeds out the ones that aren't.
Well, and a lot of my clients are women too. And, I pride myself on being a person who, you call me, I'm going to call you back. You email me, you'll have a response. Like I'm a tentative, I'm there. They know like that's what they're paying for, and I deliver. And if I'm not delivering, then that's a different conversation, but I deliver. And so I don't feel like it's inappropriate by any means. And I'm fully disclosing it. So that's also like, if that's not what you want to pay, then that's fine.
Yeah.
And in this crazy marketplace, you need to have a buddy. You need to have somebody who returns your call.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes these people, I'm like, oh my gosh,
I know. I know.
I'm not going to work with you. I'm going to choose not to work with you because of the way that you just talked to me. I'm good.
People are crazy. But it's also setting the tone for the conversation too. Like allowing someone to, I don't allow it. Like I don't have those conversations anymore with people, mainly because I'm just like, we're not a good fit, or perhaps perhaps not a good day to talk. But it's also like, I would never speak to someone like that. So therefore I will not be spoken to like that. And like the conversation just kind of stops. And when people, right now, I'm in California, so everyone's pissed about their insurance. No conversation I'm having is like no one's excited to hear me calling on the other line, right? With their renewal. It's just an uncomfortable conversation all around. But being educated and knowing, the market, what's going on and these different things, and just shifting the conversation not about price, just about, where we're at, I think helps to control the mindset of the consumer right now. Because I don't know how it is where you're at, but it's crazy over here.
Yeah. Well, even like trying to get licensed to sell in California is a mess in and of itself, and so expensive compared to almost every other state out there. So yeah, I feel that. That's crazy. Well, this has been such a awesome conversation.
We've gone everywhere, girl. We've gone everywhere.
I love it. I think that's exactly how it should be. But for those who like love this conversation, want to hear more from you, you have your own podcast, you're on the social medias. Tell us where to find you and what you've got going on.
Yeah, it's real simple. It's just SamanthaTradelius.com. It's my website. You can find all the things there. I've got a monthly blog. I post 3 she brands that are female-owned companies that I'm loving to support. I have my podcast there. You can learn about Sparkle there. I even have a little, if you want, I have a little consulting arm of me that I never really wanted to do, but I was doing it anyway. So I was like, okay, I'll just put it on there. So if you want to learn more about like furthering your insurance career, as a woman in the industry, or even, starting or growing a nonprofit, I can definitely help with that. But you can help with that too. So I think either of us are great resources there. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy to keep the conversation going.
Awesome. And what's the name of your podcast so that we can look it up?
It's called Inspired. So it's just like you're in Spy Heard, HER''D, on all major platforms like Spotify, Apple, all the things.
And it's very similar to what we do here, sharing women's stories. So if you guys love this podcast, you'll love that podcast. So go and check
We'll
it
have
out.
to have you on. We'll have to have you on our show. I do it with my girlfriend, Stacy. We are out of control. We are two girls that have been friends for like 20 years. And we've been in with fourth seasons, I think. We have like over 180 episodes. We've interviewed women all over the world, like doing incredible things. It's so awesome to hear the story of a woman who like gets up like yourself and just does more than breathes. It's everybody's journeys are super like crazy, windy, messed up, like just the most insane stuff happens and women come out on top.
Yep, always. Well, thank you so much. This has been so fun, and I am so excited for you guys to listen to this. So thank you again, Samantha.
Thanks, girl. Appreciate it.
Hey guys, thanks for coming to this week's episode of The Confident Mompreneur. If you loved today's episode, let us know, share to your stories and tag us, send to your friends, give us a rating, all of the things, and make sure to check out our guests and follow them on all of the links that we listed above. If you're looking for me, you can always find me at The Confident Mompreneur, and you can also check it out, www.theconfidentpost.com, for a blog relating to today's episode. I am so happy you're here, and I hope to see you again next week.